I never thought my world would shatter on a regular Tuesday afternoon. But that's the thing about life-changing moments, they don't wait for special occasions. My name is Avery, and I was 17 when my mother decided to rewrite our entire lives without bothering to use a pencil first. I remember walking up our cracked driveway after school, my backpack heavy with AP calculus homework, when I noticed an unfamiliar black SUV parked in my dad's old spot. Nobody had parked there since he passed away last year. Mom had been pretty clear about keeping that space empty, like some sort of memorial. The front door was unlocked, which was weird because Mom usually worked late at the hospital. As soon as I stepped inside, I heard laughter coming from our kitchen, not just Mom's, but other voices too. Male. Female. Strangers. Avery. Perfect timing. Mom called out. She appeared in the hallway, practically glowing. I hadn't seen her smile like that since before Dad got sick. Come meet everyone. Everyone? Since when did we have an everyone? I followed her into the kitchen, where a tall man in an expensive-looking suit was leaning against our counter like he owned it. Next to him stood a girl maybe 3 years younger than me, wearing the kind of clothes I could only window shop at the mall. Honey, this is Ethan, Mom said, practically bouncing on her toes. And his daughter, Chloe. Ethan stepped forward, hand extended. It's wonderful to finally meet you, Avery. Your mother has told me so much about you. Finally? How long had this been going on? And there's something else we want to tell you, Mom continued, grabbing Ethan's arm. That's when I noticed it, the diamond ring catching the afternoon light. My stomach dropped. We're getting married. Mom announced. And Ethan and Chloe are moving in this weekend. Isn't it wonderful? The kitchen suddenly felt too small, too warm. Chloe was examining her nails, looking about as thrilled as I felt. Ethan's smile seemed practiced, like something from a toothpaste commercial. Moving in? I repeated. This weekend? I know it seems sudden, Mom said, her smile faltering slightly. But when you just know. Right, honey. She looked at Ethan adoringly. Absolutely, he agreed, kissing her cheek. And Avery, I want you to know that I'm not trying to replace your father. I just want to make your mother happy and hopefully become a friend to you. Friend? My father's body wasn't even cold in his grave, and this stranger was standing in our kitchen, wearing my dad's smile. Planning to sleep in my dad's bed. Where's Chloe staying? I asked, already knowing the answer. We thought you girls could share your room. Mom said brightly. It'll be like having a sister. Chloe's head snapped up. Wait, what? Dad, you said I'd get my own room. Princess, we talked about this, Ethan said smoothly. It's just temporary until we figure out the sleeping arrangements. My room. The only place I had left that was still mine, still connected to who I used to be when Dad was alive. And now I was supposed to share it with a stranger? I have homework, I mumbled, turning to leave. Avery, wait, Mom called after me. Don't you want to stay and chat? Get to know your new family? New family. The words hit me like a physical blow. I already had a family, I said quietly, not turning around. And Dad's only been gone 14 months. I heard Mom's sharp intake of breath, followed by Ethan's murmured consolations. As I climbed the stairs to my room, our room now, I guess, I could hear them all down there, planning their perfect new life together. I sat on my bed, staring at the photo of Dad and me from my 16th birthday. He was smiling, really smiling, not that fake toothpaste commercial smile Ethan had perfected. My phone buzzed. A text from Grandpa Walter, how was school today, kiddo? I looked at the message for a long moment, then started typing, Grandpa, can I come over? I need to talk to you about Mom. Grandpa Walter's house always smelled like old books and coffee. It was the one place that still felt like home since Dad died, and as I sat in his worn leather armchair, clutching a mug of hot chocolate, I could almost pretend everything was normal. She didn't even ask me, Grandpa, I said, watching him settle into his usual spot by the window. One minute I'm thinking about calculus, the next I've got a whole new family. He adjusted his reading glasses, his eyes kind but concerned. Your mother's always been impulsive when she's hurting. Remember the time she bought that ridiculous sports car after your grandmother passed? At least the car didn't try to take over my bedroom, I muttered. A week had passed since Ethan and Chloe moved in, and everything felt wrong. The house was filled with unfamiliar sounds, Chloe's loud phone conversations, Ethan's business calls. The constant rearranging of furniture to accommodate their belongings. How's the room-sharing situation working out? Grandpa asked. I pulled out my phone and showed him a picture. She's taken over 3/4 of the closet, covered every surface with her makeup, and plays these weird ASMR videos to fall asleep. ASMR? Trust me, you don't want to know. The front door chimed, and Mom walked in without knocking. She never did anymore, even though this was her father's house. I thought I'd find you here, she said, her smile tight. Honey, we're having a family dinner tonight. Ethan's bringing his parents over. I have a calc test tomorrow, I said, not meeting her eyes. Avery, please. This is important to me. She turned to Grandpa. Dad, you should come too. It would mean a lot to have everyone there. Before Grandpa could respond, voices drifted in from outside. Through the window, I saw Ethan and Chloe walking up the path to the house. They weren't supposed to be here. I just wanted to see the property, Ethan was saying as they entered. Walter, your house is beautiful. Such potential. Potential? Something in his tone made me sit up straighter. Thank you, Grandpa said carefully. It served me well these past 30 years. Have you ever thought about selling? Ethan asked, his eyes scanning the room like he was taking inventory. The market in this area is incredible right now. Mom shot him a warning look. Ethan, we talked about this. About what? I asked, looking between them. Nothing, sweetheart, Mom said quickly. Ethan's just interested in real estate. But I saw the way Ethan's hand rested possessively on Mom's waist, the way she wouldn't meet Grandpa's eyes. Something was happening here that nobody wanted to tell me. Actually, Ethan continued, ignoring Mom's attempt to change the subject, I know a developer who'd be very interested in this location. The lot size alone. This house isn't for sale, I interrupted, my voice sharper than I intended. Of course not, Mom said soothingly. Nobody's selling anything. Now, about dinner tonight. I think I heard you wrong earlier, Grandpa said, his voice unusually stern. It sounded like you were suggesting I sell my home. The room grew tense. Chloe, who had been texting in the corner, finally looked up, sensing the shift in atmosphere. Dad, Mom said, we should discuss this later. Discuss what? I demanded. What's going on? Ethan cleared his throat. We're just exploring options. With the wedding coming up, we thought it might be nice to pool our resources. Maybe find a bigger place where we could all live together. All live together? I echoed. The hot chocolate in my stomach turned sour. It was just an idea, Mom said quickly. Nothing's decided. But I saw it now, the way Ethan looked at the house, at Grandpa, at me. We were all just pieces on his chessboard, waiting to be moved around. I should go study, I said, standing up. For that calc test you don't want me to take. As I left, I heard Ethan start talking about property values again. But it was Mom's silence that worried me most. The same silence she'd had when she let them take Dad's clothes to Goodwill, when she packed away his photos. When she parked that black SUV in his spot. I pulled out my phone and started recording as I walked away. Something told me I might need evidence of this conversation later. I never meant to find the email. I was just looking for the password to my college fund account, the one Dad set up before he died. Mom was supposed to give me access when I turned 17, but she kept forgetting to share the login details. That's when I saw it in her inbox, Thompson College Fund Transfer Request. My hands shook as I clicked. The message was from our family accountant, Dated 3 days ago, Lydia, I must advise against withdrawing from Avery's college fund. James was very specific about these funds being used solely for Avery's education. Additionally, using this money for Chloe's dance academy and competition fees could have legal implications. The room spun. Dance academy? Competition fees? What are you doing? I jumped. Chloe stood in the doorway, wearing one of her designer outfits that probably cost more than my entire wardrobe. Nothing, I said, closing the laptop too quickly. She crossed her arms. Were you going through Lydia's emails? I should tell my dad. Go ahead, I shot back. Tell him how you're getting my college money for your dance classes. Her face went pale. What? Don't pretend you didn't know. She looked away. Dad said Lydia offered. He said she wanted to support my dancing because she never had opportunities like that growing up. That wasn't her money to offer. Heavy footsteps on the stairs made us both turn. Mom appeared, still in her hospital scrubs. Girls? Everything okay, up here? Tell her, I said to Chloe. When she stayed silent, I turned to Mom. Want to explain why you're stealing my college fund? Mom's face did that thing it always did when she was caught, a flash of guilt, quickly replaced by defensive anger. I'm not stealing anything. I'm making decisions for this family. My college fund isn't family money. Dad left it for my education. Your father. She paused, choosing her words carefully. Your father isn't here anymore, Avery. Things change. Families change. Chloe has real talent. And I don't? My voice cracked. I'm getting straight A's. I'm applying to Dad's alma mater. I'm doing everything he wanted. Everything he wanted? Mom's voice rose. What about what I want? What about moving forward instead of living in the past? Moving forward doesn't mean erasing him. Nobody's erasing anything, Ethan said, appearing behind Mom. Of course he was here. He was always here now. We're just trying to build something new. Together. By stealing my future? Don't be dramatic, Mom snapped. We're not stealing anything. We're redistributing resources to benefit everyone. Benefit everyone? I laughed, but it came out more like a sob. You mean benefit Chloe? Perfect Chloe, who needs expensive dance classes and competitions, and I never asked for this. Chloe burst out. I didn't ask to move here or share a room or take anyone's money. She ran past us, down the stairs. The front door slammed. Now look what you've done, Mom said. Ethan, I'm so sorry. I'll go check on her, he said, already heading downstairs. Mom turned back to me, her face hard. This discussion is over. The decision's been made. Just like the decision to get engaged? To move them in? To sell Grandpa's house? That's enough. She stepped closer, finger pointed. I am still your mother. No, I said quietly. My mother died with Dad. I don't know who you are anymore. I pushed past her, grabbing my jacket and keys. Behind me, I heard her calling my name, but I didn't stop. I couldn't stop. My feet carried me automatically to Grandpa Walter's house, vision blurry with tears. He opened the door before I could knock, took one look at my face, and pulled me into a hug. She's using my college fund, I sobbed into his shoulder. Dad's money. She's giving it to Chloe. His arms tightened around me. Then it's time, he said quietly, to show them your father's other letter. I pulled back, wiping my eyes. What other letter? Grandpa's expression was grim. The one he wrote when he knew he was dying. The one about protecting you, and your future, no matter what. Dad's letter trembled in my hands as I sat in Grandpa Walter's study. The paper was worn at the creases, like Grandpa had read it many times before showing it to me. Your mother doesn't know about this, Grandpa said, settling into his chair. James asked me to keep it safe until you needed it. The letter detailed everything: a separate trust fund Dad had set up before he died, one that Mom couldn't touch. One that would ensure I could go to college without depending on anyone else. He'd known, somehow. Known that Mom might try to reshape our lives after he was gone. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I asked, looking up from the paper. Because your father asked me to wait. He wanted you to try to maintain a relationship with your mother if possible. Grandpa adjusted his glasses. But now. My phone buzzed, another missed call from Mom. I'd been ignoring them all morning. I can't go back there, I said quietly. Not after what she tried to do with the college fund. You don't have to. Grandpa leaned forward. Your old room here is still yours. Always has been. A knock at the front door made us both jump. Through the window, I saw Mom's car in the driveway. I'll handle this, Grandpa said, standing up. I heard their voices in the hallway, Mom's urgent whispers, Grandpa's firm responses. Then Ethan's voice joined them. Of course he was here too. She's 17, Dad, Mom was saying. She can't just decide to. Actually, she can. I stepped into the hallway, Dad's letter clutched in my hand. And I am. Mom's eyes fixed on the paper. What's that? Insurance, I said. Against exactly what you tried to do. Ethan stepped forward, all smooth concern. Avery, you're upset. We understand. But running away isn't the answer. I'm not running away. I'm choosing to live with my grandfather. Don't be ridiculous, Mom snapped. You're coming home right now. That's not home anymore. It's just a house where I don't have a room, don't have a voice, and apparently don't have a future unless it fits your new family's plans. What letter is that? Mom demanded, reaching for it. I stepped back. Dad's letter. The one he wrote explaining the trust fund he set up for me. The one you can't touch. The color drained from her face. What? He knew, Mom. He knew you'd try to change everything after he was gone. So he made sure I'd be protected. Ethan's expression shifted, just slightly, but enough for me to catch the calculation behind his concerned facade. Lydia, he said softly, maybe we should discuss this at home. There's nothing to discuss, I cut in. I'm staying here with Grandpa. My college fund, the one you tried to take, stays untouched. And the trust fund stays where it is. You can't just, Mom started. Actually, she can, Grandpa interrupted. The paperwork's already filed. I'm her legal guardian now. Mom staggered back like she'd been slapped. You went behind my back? Like you went behind mine with my college fund? Silence fell. Through the window, I saw Chloe sitting in the car, watching us. Our eyes met briefly before she looked away. This isn't over, Mom said finally, her voice shaking. You're my daughter. Then start acting like it. I opened the front door. Start putting me first sometimes, instead of your new life with Ethan. They left, Mom crying, Ethan guiding her to the car with his hand on her back. As they pulled away, I saw him checking his phone, probably already calculating how this would affect his plans. Grandpa's hand settled on my shoulder. You okay? I nodded, though my hands were still shaking. Dad knew this might happen. He tried to protect me even after. I couldn't finish. He did protect you, Grandpa said quietly. And so will I. I looked around the familiar study, at the photos of Dad and me on the walls, at the college brochures Grandpa had already collected for me. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. I should start moving my things, I said. Already cleared out the garage for you. Grandpa smiled. Welcome home, kiddo. 3 months living with Grandpa Walter had given me a new normal. My grades were up, college applications were submitted, and I'd finally started sleeping through the night again. But life has a way of pulling the rug out just when you think you're steady on your feet. I noticed it first during our morning coffee routine. Grandpa's hands trembled as he reached for his mug, spilling drops across the counter. "Just tired," he said, wiping up the mess. But I caught him squinting at his morning paper, the words seeming to swim before his eyes. The next day, he forgot to pick me up from school. I found him in his study, staring blankly at his desk calendar. "Grandpa?" He looked up, confused. "Avery? What time is it?" 4:30. "Oh God, I was supposed to." He pressed his fingers to his temples. "I've been getting these headaches." Before I could respond, the doorbell rang. Mom stood on the porch, still in her hospital scrubs. "Everything okay?" she asked, peering past me. "The school called when no one picked Avery up." "We're fine," I said quickly. "Grandpa just lost track of time." She frowned. "Dad? Are you feeling all right?" "Just a headache," he mumbled, but his voice was slurred at the edges. Mom switched to doctor mode instantly, checking his pupils, asking questions. I stood frozen, watching her examine him with professional detachment. "You need to see a neurologist," she said finally. "Today. I have an appointment next week." "No, Dad. Today." The hospital waiting room felt like a time warp. Mom made calls while I sat with Grandpa, watching him drift in and out of focus. "Did you tell Ethan where you are?" I asked Mom when she returned with coffee. "He's handling it." Her voice was clipped. "He wanted to come, but..." "But what?" She hesitated. "He thought it might be better if we discussed living arrangements first." My stomach clenched. Living arrangements? "Avery, if your grandfather needs care." "He has care. He has me." "You're 17. You can't." "Watch me." Grandpa stirred. "Stop fighting," he mumbled. "Please." The doctor's words blurred together, mass. Tests. Treatment options. I caught fragments through the roaring in my ears, advanced stage, and aggressive growth, and a quality of life decisions. Mom gripped Grandpa's hand while he nodded calmly, like they were discussing the weather instead of his brain tumor. Later that night, I found a text from Chloe. "Dad's already talking about selling the house. Says it's for the best." "I'm sorry." I deleted it without responding. "We should discuss options," Mom said over dinner, hospital cafeteria sandwiches that tasted like cardboard. "I'm not leaving him," I said. "Of course not. But maybe it's time to come home. All of us. We could convert the den into a sick room? So Ethan can watch Grandpa die while he plans to sell his house? That's not fair. None of this is fair." My voice cracked. A nurse glanced our way, and I lowered it. "First Dad, now Grandpa. And you just want to pack everything away like it never existed." "I'm trying to help." "No, you're trying to control everything. Like always." Grandpa's voice drifted from his hospital bed. "Avery, come here." I went to him, taking his weathered hand in mine. "Your mother's right about one thing," he said softly. "You can't do this alone. I'm not leaving you. No one's leaving anyone." He squeezed my hand. "But we need help. Professional help. We can get nurses," I said quickly. "Home care. I'll figure it out." "With what money?" The question hung there, heavy with implications. Dad's trust fund was for college. Grandpa's savings wouldn't cover long-term medical care. "I'll defer college," I said. "Work instead." "No." His voice was stronger now. "You're going to college. That's not negotiable." "But..." "Sometimes," he said, "protecting someone means knowing when to let go." I looked at Mom, hovering in the doorway, then back at Grandpa. The choice loomed before me: hold on to my anger, or find a way forward together. "I need time," I whispered. "Time," Grandpa said with a sad smile, "is something none of us have enough of." Grandpa Walter died on a Tuesday, just like Dad. Maybe Tuesdays just had it out for my family. The funeral home smelled like artificial flowers and coffee. I sat in the front row, staring at the closed casket, while people filed past with their practiced sympathy. Mom hovered nearby, trying to play both grieving daughter and concerned mother, failing at both. "He left this for you," the lawyer said quietly, handing me an envelope during the reception. "Asked me to deliver it today." I slipped it into my pocket without opening it. I couldn't handle any more last words right now. "Avery." Ethan's voice. He'd been working the room like a politician, shaking hands, accepting condolences. "We should discuss the house." "Not today. The market's hot right now. If we list quickly." I said not today. "Honey," Mom cut in, "we need to be practical. The medical bills are covered," I said. "Grandpa told me." "What do you mean, covered?" I met her eyes. "He had insurance. And savings. And plans." "Plans?" Ethan's voice sharpened. "What plans?" "Ask your lawyer." I stood up. "I need air." Outside, I found Chloe sitting on the steps, picking at her black dress. "I'm sorry," she said. "About everything." "Thanks." "Dad's being weird about the house." "When isn't he weird about money?" She almost smiled. "True." Back inside, I heard raised voices from the funeral home office. Mom and Ethan, arguing with the lawyer. "What do you mean he left everything to Avery?" "The house, the savings, everything except a small provision for Lydia. It's all legally binding. She's 17. With a court-appointed trustee until she's 18. Which is in 3 months." I stepped into the doorway. Mom's face was flushed, Ethan's carefully constructed mask cracking. "You knew about this?" Mom demanded. "Grandpa told me last week. In the hospital, between morphine doses. He wanted to make sure I'd be okay." "You're not okay." Mom exploded. "You're 17. You need your mother. Like you needed yours? Before you let Ethan talk you into selling her jewelry?" She flinched. "That's different." "No, it's not. You keep trying to erase the past, but some of us want to remember it." "Remember it?" Ethan scoffed. "You're living in it. Clinging to a dead man's house won't bring him back. Or your father." The room went silent. "Get out." My voice was ice. "Both of you." "Avery. Get out." They left, Mom crying, Ethan steering her with that possessive hand on her back. Always steering, always controlling. Alone in the office, I finally opened Grandpa's letter. "Dear Avery. By now you know about the house and the money. What you don't know is why. Your father and I planned this together before he died. We saw what was happening to your mother, how grief was changing her, making her vulnerable to people who might take advantage. The house isn't just a building, kiddo. It's your anchor. Your safe harbor. Don't let anyone take that from you. But remember, harbors aren't meant to keep ships forever. They're just safe places to rest before the next journey. Your mother isn't a bad person. She's lost, like you were. Maybe, with time, you can help each other find your way back. All my love. Grandpa." I folded the letter, my vision blurring. Through the window, I watched Mom and Ethan in the parking lot. He was gesturing angrily, she was shaking her head. Then she did something I hadn't seen before, she stepped away from his controlling hand, walking to her car alone. My phone buzzed. A text from Chloe, "Dad's talking about contesting the will. Says he has proof Grandpa wasn't competent when he signed it." Of course he was. Even now, Ethan was plotting, scheming, trying to take what wasn't his. I touched the letter in my pocket. Safe harbor, Grandpa had said. But sometimes, to keep a harbor safe, you have to weather one last storm. Looking at the lawyer's business card, I made a decision. It was time to show Ethan exactly what kind of storm he'd sailed into. The locksmith finished his work just as Ethan's BMW pulled into the driveway. Perfect timing. "This is private property," I called from the porch. "You're not welcome here." Ethan stepped out, straightening his tie. Always dressed for business, even when trying to steal someone's home. "Actually, I have documentation suggesting otherwise." He pulled out a folder. Even from here, I could see my grandfather's signature, shaky, barely legible, dated during his final hospital stay. "Amazing what people will sign when they're on morphine," I said. "Your grandfather was perfectly lucid." Ethan smiled that toothpaste commercial smile. "The witnesses will testify to that." "What witnesses?" "The nurses you bribed?" His smile flickered. "You should be careful making accusations like that." "Like the accusations you made about Grandpa's mental state? The ones you threatened to take to court?" Movement caught my eye. Mom's car pulling up, Chloe in the passenger seat. "They weren't supposed to be here." "I brought reinforcements," Ethan said smugly. "Your mother agrees the house should be sold. For everyone's benefit." Mom stepped out, looking uncertain. "Avery, please. We need to talk about this rationally." "Rationally?" I pulled out my phone. Like how Ethan rationally discussed selling Grandpa's house while he was still alive. I pressed play on the recording from that day in Grandpa's study. Ethan's voice filled the air. "The old man's dying anyway. Once he's gone, we'll contest whatever will he's got. No judge will side with a teenager over her mother." Mom's face went white. Chloe stepped away from her father, moving closer to the porch where I stood. "You recorded me?" Ethan's mask cracked. "That's illegal." "In this state?" "Only if both parties don't know they're being recorded." "Grandpa knew. He wanted evidence of who you really are." "Dad?" Chloe's voice was small. "What's he talking about?" "About contesting the will before." "Stay out of this, princess." "Don't call me that." She climbed the porch steps, standing beside me. "Not after what you did to Mom's inheritance when she died." Ethan's face darkened. "Chloe." "Tell them," she said. "Tell them what you did to Mom's money. The money that was supposed to be for my college." Mom turned to Ethan. "What is she talking about?" "Nothing." "She's confused." "I saw the papers," Chloe continued. "The ones you hide in your desk. Mom left me a trust fund, just like Avery's dad did for her. But you spent it all on your investments." The silence that followed was deafening. "Is this true?" Mom asked. "Lydia, don't let them manipulate you. Answer the question." His mask finally shattered. "Everything I did for us. For our future." "No," Mom said quietly. "You did it for yourself. Just like you're doing now." She walked up to the porch, past Ethan's reaching hand. For the first time in months, she really looked at me. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I've been so blind." "We're not done here," Ethan called. "I'll take this to court." "With what evidence?" I held up my phone. "The recording of you plotting to steal from a dying man? Or maybe Chloe's trust fund papers?" "You wouldn't dare." "Try me." He looked between us and me, Mom, Chloe, seeing his carefully constructed plan crumbling. Without a word, he got back in his BMW and drove away. Mom touched my arm hesitantly. "Can we talk?" "Really talk?" I looked at the new locks on Grandpa's door, my door now. Safe harbor, he'd called it. But harbors weren't meant to keep ships forever. "Coffee?" I offered. "I think there's some of Grandpa's blend left." Mom smiled through her tears. "I'd like that." Chloe hung back. "I should go." "Stay," I said. "We have plenty of rooms here. If you want one." As we went inside, I felt the weight of Dad's letter in my pocket, Grandpa's words echoing, sometimes protecting someone means knowing when to let go. But maybe it also means knowing when to let them back in. 1 year later, I stood in Grandpa's study, my study now, holding my college acceptance letter. Dad's alma mater. Full scholarship. Everything they'd wanted for me. The house had changed over the past year, but not in the ways Ethan had planned. Instead of being sold off, it had become something new, a safe harbor for more than just me. Chloe lived in what used to be Grandpa's guest room, her dance trophies mixing with his old books. After the custody battle, she'd chosen to stay here with us. Turned out she had her own trust fund lawyer, one who helped her recover what Ethan had taken. Is that it? Mom asked from the doorway. She came over 3 times a week now, slowly rebuilding what we'd lost. The letter from Stanford? I nodded, running my fingers over the embossed letterhead. Your father would be so proud, she said softly. Both of them would. The doorbell rang. Probably the realtor, not for this house, but for Mom's. She was finally selling it, moving into the small cottage down the street. Close enough to visit, far enough to give us space. I'll get it, Chloe called from downstairs. I placed the acceptance letter on the desk, next to the last photo taken of Dad, Grandpa, and me together. They were both smiling, real smiles, not the kind Ethan had perfected. Have you heard from him? I asked Mom. She shook her head. Not since the divorce. Last I heard, he was in Seattle, trying to convince some tech startup to hire him. Good riddance, Chloe said, returning with a package. This came for you, Avery. The return address made my heart skip, Dad's old law firm. Inside was a letter, dated just weeks before he died. Dear Avery. If you're reading this, it means you're about to start college. Your grandfather promised to hold this letter until then. By now you've probably faced challenges I couldn't protect you from. You've probably had to make hard choices about forgiveness, justice, and what family really means. Remember what I told you about harbors? They're not just safe places to rest, they're where journeys begin. Your journey is just starting, kiddo. The house is yours now, to do with as you choose. But I hope you'll consider what you've built there, not just a shelter from storms, but a place where broken things can heal. I'm proud of you, not just for what you've achieved, but for who you've become. Love. Dad. I looked around the study, seeing it through new eyes. The desk where Chloe did her homework. The chair where Mom sat during our weekly dinners. The walls that had witnessed both endings and beginnings. You okay? Mom asked. Yeah, I said, surprised to find it was true. Just thinking about harbors. What about them? How they're not just about protecting things. They're about launching them too. Chloe picked up my acceptance letter. Stanford's pretty far away. It is, I agreed. But distance doesn't matter much when you know where home is. Mom touched the photo on the desk. Your father used to say that love isn't about holding on, it's about giving people room to sail and a safe place to return. Speaking of sailing, Chloe said, my dance recital's next week. If you guys want to come. Wouldn't miss it, I said. Later that night, I sat on the porch, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of hope. Mom's car was parked in the driveway, not in Dad's old spot, but in her own new space. Chloe's music drifted down from upstairs, no longer an intrusion but part of the house's rhythm. I thought about revenge, about protection, about all the ways we try to hold on to what we love. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying what hurt you, it's about building something stronger from the wreckage. Dad and Grandpa had given me a harbor. But what I'd built here was something even better, a home where broken ships could become whole again. I pulled out my phone and started typing, Dear Stanford Admissions. My journey was just beginning, but for the first time since that Tuesday afternoon that changed everything, I knew exactly where I was headed.